Welcome back to Everything But the Lesson Plan, the podcast where we talk about what really impacts educators and the students we serve. I am your host, Franchesca Thompson. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a student walk into your classroom and before they even said a word, you knew something wasn't right? Maybe it was the same hoodie every day, shoes too small, hair undone, or the energy was low. And in education, we're trained to focus on behavior. But what if what we're seeing isn't behavior at all? What if it's trauma? Trauma showing up. Today's episode is titled, No Child Should Wear Their Trauma. And this conversation is going to stay with you. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Mamie Harper, a TEDx UGA presenter, social worker, and advocate for youth whose stories often go unseen. Her work centers on one powerful belief that no child should ever be identified by their struggle before they're even seen for their potential. Let's start here because trauma doesn't always announce itself loudly. Through appearance, through withdrawal, through silence, research shows that a large percentage of children experience traumatic events, from family disruptions to violence, and many carry that into school daily. But here's the part we don't always talk about. Sometimes trauma shows up before we even learn a child's name. And we will be talking about that today with Miss Mamie Harper. Welcome to the show, Mamie. How are you?
I am good. I am good, and I am blessed and well. How are you?
Pretty good. So I'm excited about this topic because it's right before we start back to school. It's the things
Hmm.
that we really need to discuss. And I'm so glad I was able to find you through your TEDx
Yeah.
event that you did. So tell us a little more about your TEDx.
You know, that was such a long time ago. Now,
Mhm.
I think we're
TEDx
in the
UGA, right?
TEDx UGA. I did it my first year in my doctoral program. My background is in social work, right?
Social work.
Um, kind of my focus, if I had to do a focus, it would be child welfare in the school setting and mental health,
Hmm.
focusing around trauma. So my TEDx is basically challenging the concept of we have three big three in human rights:
Hmm.
food, clothing, and shelter. I would say that we, as the majority, the population, the people, however you want to position yourself, we have a sound understanding of shelter and what are the gaps, what are the holes. We have studied food insecurities. We've even come up with names,
Yeah,
how to identify those persons. We've even changed names. Instead of talking about the homeless, we talk about the unhoused and
yeah,
food insecurity and food deserts. So we don't necessarily have those communications when it talks about clothing.
yeah, you're
And
right.
it's a true belief of mine that it is a overlooked, forgotten human right. And in
Hmm.
particular, how does that impact children?
Yeah,
When we look at a child in need, we will make sure that housing is taken care of. We'll make sure that food is there, but we will get to clothing. And my argument is that clothing is a risk assessment. It's one of the first indicators
yeah,
that
it
there
is.
is challenge and trauma occurring. So really, my TEDx was about that and how it happens in relationship with food. How can you tell that there's a food issue by clothing? How can we tell there's a homelessness issue by clothing? And how can we tell that there's emotional abuse and sexual abuse for children when you are particularly looking at clothing and how we can address that?
I love this. And like you said, it's one of those topics that's just not really
Hmm.
researched like this. So we're going to talk about it today. And let's talk about the foster care system.
Hmm.
Because for many students, home isn't consistent. One week they're here, the next week they're somewhere else. I see this time and time again working at the high school. It's a
Hmm.
different bed, different rules, different expectations. And what often gets lost is identity.
Right.
Even in foster care, support conversations, one theme keeps coming up. Kids don't just need placement, they need stability, they need support systems, and people who see them. So, my question to you is what does the constant transition do to a child's sense of self?
Ooh.
Mm,
And the thing is that I have been the case manager working at DCF in Florida, Department of Children and Families in Florida, where I had to be a part of a case where a family of three children had their termination of parental rights. So
mm-hmm,
that child literally was in the system for a significant amount of time, and their parents could not master for that case their addiction, severe addiction.
mm,
Um, and when you're talking about sense of self, I tell people, what does it look like when a child has a strong sense of self?
mm-hmm,
When a child has a strong sense of self, what you find is a healthy community, what you find is foundational family. What does my mom, my dad, my cousin, my brothers, what does that mean, like foundational family? And
mm-hmm.
so when your sense of self is healthy, we can articulate your person, place, and things being secured, fixed.
Yeah,
That doesn't associate itself with perfect, right? Because no one has perfect, right? But
yeah,
what it is that it's not something that can be easily removed, right? It's not
right.
something that I look at a different bed the next day. I look at a different person that I have to call mom or, things of that nature. It doesn't look like going to court every month.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about a sense of self, you have people and children in particular that will assign their identity to their circumstance
Mm,
versus to their experience of health in life and childhood
yeah.
experiences. So when we're talking about vulnerable populations, like children in foster care or any child in distress, right? We have to be careful not to merge their circumstance to their identity. And
Yeah.
that's what happens.
That's true. And so, what does this look like in the classroom as
Mm.
an educator? How can educators create consistency when everything else is changing? Mm, mm,
Ooh.
mm.
Now I'm gonna tell you this.
Whoops.
I spent about, 14 years
Hmm.
as a school social worker. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna give these tips here.
Yeah.
One, your attendance as a teacher matters.
Mm,
Take the child out of it.
yeah.
Children come to school, and that is the one place where they find consistency.
Yeah.
From the lunch, they know they're going to get lunch. They know they got to say the pledge. They know they're going to get recess or whatever. They know that that is a structure. So
Yeah.
when you, as a teacher, because you don't want to acknowledge that you're burnt out, you don't want to acknowledge that you hate actually the profession of teaching, but you're
Mm,
there. You're literally introducing secondary trauma to a
yeah.
child. So if you are the type that, and I'm not, judging. If you got to leave in the middle of the year because things, your mental health and your life is happening, cool.
Yeah.
But even to the person that thinks it's okay to come 30 minutes late every day. And so now
Mm,
you got to substitute that right there. So for a teacher, I challenge you not just on professionalism, but what does it mean to have Mr. Williams every day for those 9 months for a child, right? The second piece of um, for what teachers could do is not only is your presence needing to be there, but how clean is your home, the child's second home, right?
mm,
So if my home is characterized by hoarding, drugs, abuse, but I come to a classroom that is very synonymous with that because
mm,
we don't want to pick up, we don't want to teach um, cleaning up after ourselves, it's almost a mirrored effect with a little bit
yeah.
of relief. So those are things within your toolbox that you can manage, right?
Yeah.
Moving a little bit emotional external. Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Children of varying experiences
Yeah.
must be held accountable in love. So
Hmm.
you're not codifying, because I have seen teachers that have students of different experiences and they overly pacify. That doesn't help them either. They got to
Mm,
follow the same rules like everybody else.
yeah.
But also, I've seen teachers that would know that a student is really struggling and they're acting out, and they will almost hold a grudge against that child
Mm-hmm.
moving on day to day. Please know that you are successfully occupying the space of their adult offender when you do
Mm,
that.
mm,
And the last thing, and I'm gonna wrap this up. Teachers are so important because in many instances they provide the experiences of childhood that they do not get at home.
mm-hmm.
So the field trips matter. The in-class field trips matter. The
Better.
class parties matter. The birthday parties. A lot of children don't go to birthday parties unless it's a student's parents bringing in cupcakes.
Mm-hmm.
You, as a teacher, outside of being there, outside of having a clean home, outside of correcting in love and offering those moral practices, you offer the childhood that those children will otherwise not get. You hold a great power as teachers.
Yeah. Wow. You know what? Everything you just said, I don't think people really think about that to that level, right? As far as supporting students. We get our students every year, they come in, but are we really thinking about um, showing up like that all the time, having
Mm-hmm.
our classroom organized? I know a lot of teachers, think about those experiences. That's one thing I'm big on is just
Mm-hmm.
making sure that we're having some type of experience in or out of the classroom for our kids to get exposure. But those other two pieces, man, that was powerful. It was just like, oh my God, okay, I didn't even, okay, yeah, showing up every day, being there, that they need that. They absolutely need that.
Absolutely. I
So,
remember one child when a teacher kind of stated that she was not going to come back after Christmas break.
mhm,
I literally had to process that with that girl like the whole week.
mm,
And sometimes teachers don't know the student
yeah,
that they get within their classroom.
yeah, you're right.
So yeah, so it was just a closure thing. So I had to
Yeah.
bring the teacher and the student together to experience
Mm,
what closure is like so that she didn't feel abandonment.
yeah. Okay, good. That's good to know. So
Mhm.
let's go a little deeper and talk about homelessness.
Mhm.
Because some students don't have a home to go back to, not in the traditional sense. They may be living in their cars, and I've seen this in my years of education.
Sure.
Some of them are staying with relatives, and some of them are just moving to place to place to place. The
Mhm.
truth is, you might not ever know because
Mhm.
many students work hard. They work hard to hide that thing,
Yeah.
right? And there's nothing like just carrying your backpack, the carrying it from uncertainty. And so I think about my child. She did this project. It was a some type of national project, and there was some win. You could be a winner in this campaign, and you had to develop something, design something. And she designed what was called the Journey Box. And she
Mhm.
actually won this national campaign. And the
Mhm.
Journey Box was this. And I think she was only in like the fourth grade when she created this thing. She said she wanted something for for students who are homeless to have because they move from house to house to house or car to car to car. They don't have they're always taking their things and they don't get to carry all of the stuff with them. So she created this journey box, and in the journey box it had like a little toy, it had like a little raincoat, it had like a little book, and it had a little space in there for them to keep some of their most precious items with them so that whenever they leave one place to the next place they would have this journey box, and it was a journal in there as well. And
Yeah.
so I think it's very important for people to understand that the power and also the pain into not having a space to live
Mhm.
in.
Mhm. Mhm.
What have you seen in that space?
Well, I want to say this to whoever is listening, because I am a believer in God,
Mm-hmm.
in Christ and his gift on the cross. And sometimes parents, children, students miss out on their blessing of not being vulnerable of their status
Yeah.
out of fear, but there are resources at the schools McKinney-Vento Act that will help you with transportation to keep in your home school, again, for consistency, that will help with clothing, that will help with school supplies. So I do want to encourage whoever may be experiencing that depth of uncertainty,
Mm-hmm.
of trauma, um, of low housing or uncertain housing, to make sure you tell your social worker and tell your team at the school. What I have witnessed with housing issues, and I know I'll make this brief, is that they tend to always dress off season.
Mm.
Um, because I can only carry but so much in the shelter. I
Yeah.
cannot have um my boots will be the boots I wear all year, because while boots may make my feet hot, I know I have something to cover me in the wintertime, right? Or
Mhm.
tennis shoes the whole time. So one thing I tend to survey with some students is, how do your feet look? And that's a growing study within within the unhoused population, or those who are seeking housing, is looking at their feet care, right? Because we
Yeah.
don't have a lot of access to that. And one experience that I noticed, and I talked about this in my TED Talk, was that a child was coming to school and the child did not have shoes for the rain.
Mm.
And that's one of my cues. Oh, you're wearing flip-flops in the rain. We every single time. Your mama did every single time. And
Yeah.
that child in particular, not only was that child fighting a housing issue, the mama was cognitively fragile and sensitive.
Mm.
So she wasn't aware those babies were literally raising themselves, and the mom was in distress. In addition to that, um, when you're talking about children of housing, they can become very attached to the thought of accumulating things, so they
Mm-hmm.
will be more prompt to take from others.
Yeah.
One child told me from the sense, oh, they're okay, they got food at the house.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I understand you're missing food, but you're taking from someone else. So now that's a behavior issue. But
Mm-hmm.
because they're operating in survival, they rationalize their behaviors.
Yeah.
So that's just some of the things that I've noticed, and some of the ways I would tell teachers to be aware. Yes, teenagers like wearing shirts and jackets every day of the year, winter,
Yeah.
spring, summer, but be curious,
Yeah.
ask. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing I want teachers to know as well as far as this, um, pay attention to what's going on in the cafeteria when everybody leaves,
Hmm.
especially at the high school. Find out which kid is staying around looking for things to pick up off the table to put
Hmm.
in their book bag,
Hmm.
or going in the trash can to pick
Hmm.
out food that has not been opened yet. That's some telltale signs as well, and you want to definitely
Absolutely.
figure out what's going on with that student. So, poverty doesn't just impact resources, it impacts confidence. It
Hmm.
impacts the voice. It impacts
Hmm.
whether a student feels like they belong in the room. And too often, systems place this responsibility on the child to overcome without addressing the environment that created the
Hmm.
weight in the first
Absolutely.
place. So, how does poverty shape how students show up emotionally? Especially, what are some things that teachers can look for?
Hmm. Again, just with my experience within school social work and mental health, um, whew, I hate to use the term children of poverty, so I'll refrain from that. But we also
Okay.
have to be aware of, but I get it, right? I understand
Yeah.
it, is that it is not a monolith. It is not one size fits all. Poverty can very much so be associated with sexual abuse. Poverty could be associated because you're in certain areas and in certain environments. Poverty can associate itself with neglect, right? So, some of the things that I will tell teachers to be mindful of when when we're talking about students that are experiencing some economic hardships, One thing I would say is make sure you practice language of safety within the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So for elementary schools, it's good touch, bad touch, right?
Mm-hmm.
For middle school, you're making sure that we're talking about the bullying box and things like that. For high school, you're making sure that you're creating space of safety, the
Mm-hmm.
safety zone, or all is welcome here, so that you can curate that experience of let me talk to a safe person. I
Yeah.
do believe every student needs one safe person.
Yeah.
And for teachers, that may be you. But if it's not you, allow the other avenue. If it's the principal, don't be offended. If it's the counselor, let that be that. So make
Yeah.
sure that you create the language of safety. Another concept is make sure that your classrooms, right, are resource friendly,
Mm.
meaning don't get into the social media battle about who puts their name on the school supplies and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
You're curating, this is our home, and everybody gets the resource. On top of
Mm.
that, at this point in time, there is no excuse why children are going for long extended holidays with no food. We know the calendar. We know Thanksgiving comes every day this year. We know
Yeah.
Christmas or winter holiday comes we know spring break, we know fall break.
Yeah.
This is the time where teachers and social workers, and I'm not just going to put this on teachers,
Yeah.
social workers as well, counselors as well, administration as well, must coordinate at the beginning of the year. If you have your McKinney-Vento list of students, if you have your social and emotional behavior list of students, then that means that we are starting to work on that now, right?
Now.
So creating a safe place within language, also being resource friendly. The last thing I will also say is that relationship with students of different economic placements and identity, you do not isolate the parent.
Mm.
One thing I have seen in error is that when we give the bag of food, we will just ask the parent to sign off on it and then we release, right?
Mm.
When we're talking about sensitivities with poverty and things of that nature, you have to press that parent and be with them that whole year. I don't
Mm.
care if you were calling people at the beginning of the year and you were calling them you are having a relationship. You are not just servicing the child. My God, today, you are not just servicing the child, you are
Yeah.
servicing the whole family. So if the child has two younger brothers, guess what we're doing?
Servicing them two younger brothers.
Because we are servicing everybody.
Yes.
But that's what I would say. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you would be surprised at
Yeah.
how many people don't consider the whole family with the child.
Yeah. And I also think that schools need to figure out identify more support human resources that schools can allocate to support this as well. I think sometimes they are stretched really thin, but I do agree with you. It goes into the planning. It
Ooh,
has to start at the beginning of the year and it needs to be a priority.
let
So
me let me throw this nugget in there too.
mhm.
Everybody is not a social worker,
Mm,
just like everybody is not a teacher. My
right.
profession is a science,
Yeah.
just like the education field is a science. So when you have sometimes teachers saying, I'm a social worker too, no, you need to work with your social worker because that
Mhm.
is a whole skill and a whole
Yes.
researched field so that you can maximize the most for your students.
Yeah, you're right. Great conversation. And so I want to kind of now transition to getting into your mission right now and
Mm-hmm.
what started this. So, no child should ever wear their trauma. That's your tagline.
Mm-hmm.
And that statement is deeper than clothing. It's
Mm-hmm.
about dignity, as we talked about. It's about identity and protection and visibility. Because when a child is forced to wear their struggle, the world responds to the struggle and not the child. So please
Absolutely.
tell me, where did this mission come from?
And
What
I
was
ain't
that
gonna
spark?
let me tell you something. Um, uh, well, I have an organization, Carrie's Closet, talk a little bit more about it later, but just in simplicity, we are a mobile clothing closet and we started servicing foster cares, children, and then just moved to all children of need to include those in the juvenile justice system.
Mm,
Um, healthcare system, our children of different immigrant and refugee statuses. We're talking about all kids. What I mean by no child should wear their trauma or no child should look like the trauma that they're going through. I mean just
Yeah.
that. You
Yeah.
can look at a child come into your classroom, and we're at a space and place where we villainize those who may be experiencing a depth of poverty. Um, and we will look at how they are dressed, and we could say, oh, that's a food issue, or oh, that's a parenting issue, or oh, that's a housing issue.
Yeah.
And to me, really the mission and the vision with Carrie's Closet is because I truly believe that if children have a healthy, sound childhood, the trajectory of them being wholesome, sound, healthy adults is greater.
Yeah. That's true.
And I think we are overlooking the importance of childhood. When I'm asked that question, I tell people it's not really centered on the negative of the child. It is centered on what childhood should be. It is a challenge that if we are working with children and they are looking less than their best self, what are we saying about their possibilities when they become adults? And the fact of the matter is, sometimes it is um, the conversation and the course of change is as simple as making sure they have clean clothes,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that they're not picked on because they don't come back from winter break without the new shoes and the hair and all.
Yeah.
So the mission is really being stemmed for the protection of childhood, which I
Yeah.
think we are grossly overlooking when it
Mhm.
comes into child development. Not just that your brain is functioning and that you're emotionally responsive, but how do you play? Do you have shoes to play in? You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
do we have our Easter dresses if we do that? Like, what is our childhood looking like with it synonymous with clothing? So that's kind of where that comes from.
Yeah. And let me ask you this. Is your organization attached to the schools, or is that something that I'm just wondering with all of our listeners who in the schools that want more help in this
Mhm.
space, what should they start doing to reach out to the community with groups like yours that are already doing the work that could
Mhm.
possibly come into the space and be of assistance?
So we actually seek out schools, and we attach ourselves to them as a community resource.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm gonna say this, Franchesca, and this may be a little bit dicey, is
Hmm.
that schools have made it a little bit impossible to come in service.
Really?
They have so many red lines, so many how valid are you, so many of this and that, and it's sometimes difficult.
Yeah.
It's very political. It's very
Mm.
political. Is this gently used clothing? How do we know that it's washed? And I would say that's just an indication of where we are socially, that there's no trust in the community. There is no
Wow.
trust in the community. And so a lot of what I truly want our teachers and our administrators in particular come out into the community and see where these places are. Do
Hmm.
not sit on your golden hill called
Yeah.
education and
Hmm.
think that people are going to come to you. Step up, come about your building. See what's
Yes.
happening on a Saturday at a local church.
I love that.
Make the relationship there so that it can carry itself to your school year.
Yeah.
You all essentially, and I'm talking to the school systems, the foster cares, the health centers that need outside resources, you all essentially hold the power. We
Hmm.
are here,
Yeah.
but you all have to make the access to getting to you better. And
Hmm.
right now, it is not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm glad that you said that. And as you were talking, I was like, dang, I didn't realize it was such a push on getting these organizations in the
Mhm.
school. And I think the district, your school district, needs to have some responsibility in this and create all of these departments that we have in education. You can
Mhm.
create a department that goes out and vets these organizations and
Yes,
brings these organizations to
absolutely.
the local schools.
Mhm. And
Simple.
I'm going to say this, friends, sometimes it is not attached with a church. If
Mm-hmm.
you are in the South, sometimes we believe that vetting is if you are with a Southern Baptist church.
Mhm.
No, it
Yeah.
is okay if someone is agnostic, but still has a mission of protecting people
Yeah.
to come into your school building. And I'm saying that it may be someone that you know is queer.
Mhm.
I'm having these conversations with
Yes.
you because I've had them before. You
Yeah.
can't put away your bias to see the service that they provide
Mhm.
of feeding
Mm.
people,
Yeah.
of clothing people, of connecting people with mental health resources.
Right.
So some of us in positions of quote unquote power need to check ourselves, check our
Mhm.
privilege so that we can be of better resources to the children that are in our protection.
You look, you said that, ma'am. Okay? You said that. So let me tell you this, organizations doing this work aren't just providing resources, they are interrupting the cycles. And
Hmm.
we've got to get into that, right? We've got to connect those organizations with the school. They are saying things like, you are not your circumstances, you are not your past, you are not what you've been through. And that kind of message, it can shift a life. And so I want to do, we've heard Miss Harper and all of her nuggets that she dropped today. So I normally do rapid fire questions with my guest host, but
Hmm.
I'm going to read these questions and I want my audience to think about this as I ask these questions. So think about yourself, whether you're a teacher, a leader, community partner. Here's my first rapid fire question. Who in my classroom, and this is for teachers, who in my classroom might be carrying something unseen? So
Hmm.
when you start this school year, take an inventory of that. Get locked into resources that can support that student right at the beginning. My next question, do I respond to the behavior or the story behind it?
Hmm.
You just heard what Ms. Harper just gave us some advice on how to support students. What do you do? How can I restore dignity before I enforce discipline? So, just some things for us to think about as we get ready to go into this new year. Mamie, is there any other last thoughts or things that you want to share?
Well, I do want to share with you, Ms. Thompson. I thank you for working with me and having me speak
Mhm.
to your peoples,
Yes.
to your tribe, to your peoples. So I'm going to make this very simple and very brief. Fight for childhood, even for
Hmm.
the ones that don't show up every day, even for the ones that may get on your nerves, the one that eats up all your fruit snacks.
Yes.
We are fighting for childhood, and sometimes that means making sure that our kids look their best.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much. I
Thank you.
I am excited about your organization. I'm going to put everything in the show notes, guys, in the podcast description. You'll have her links. I'll even link her TED Talk so you can see that as well. And keep doing what you're doing. It
Thank you.
matters. It
Thank
matters.
you.
Here's what I want you to remember. Every student walks into a classroom wearing something. Somewhere confidence, somewhere fear, and somewhere trauma. But what they all deserve is to be seen beyond it. Thank you for tuning in to Everything But the Lesson Plan. If this episode spoke to you, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with another educator, counselor, or leader, someone who needs to hear this perspective. Because when we start seeing students differently, we start teaching differently. And as always, keep thriving.